WHO Talk Show. Charles.
You got Razor.
Loud and clear, too.
Yeah.
Like, we got to tell Miss Max to project like that.
Yeah.
Like, she ain't got that baritone.
But she the one that taught me how to talk like this.
So, okay, I got you. Like when you were wooing her?
Nah, like when I'm saying, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I am so sorry.
That's right. And Razor, like we always do about this time, taking cville to the world, bringing the world to cville. And so what better way to do that in the middle of the show, the second hour, than to talk to the mayor himself.
Yeah.
Right. Juandiego Wade of Charlottesville City Council. Mayor Wade, thank you for joining us today, sir. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Ask him how you doing when we get finished.
Yeah. Right now, I'm doing great.
Right. Nah, we ain't gonna be nowhere near as bad as them council meetings I be seeing. I don't know, Razor maybe get that bad. I don't know, but I ain't.
No, indeed. I know how to sit down when told to.
I don't know about that, Razor, because we be going over the hour.
Yeah.
And it shows, I don't know. But Mayor Wade, seriously, as always, thanks for always, seeing the value in our platform.
Yes.
To be able to reach the community. And so, there's just so much happening right now, so many topics to discuss,
Mm-hmm.
And so just being able to sit here and get it directly from you. And, as well, some folks may even text in some questions in addition to what we already received. Right. But, kind of, sort of, mano a mano, though. Like, how are you? Right. Like, I know we gave the general good afternoon.
Yes.
Like, but when it comes to your energy right now, like, in serving this great city of Charlottesville, how is Juandiego Wade? And
give the 3 black men in a room answer. Don't give the what I'm supposed to say because somebody gonna judge me later answer.
Yeah, so I'm serious. I've been in this game of serving the community for over 30 years. And so the reason I'm able to do this in this community that's highly engaged, I'm talking about serving on various nonprofit boards and on the school board for 16 years. And now at council, I've learned how to moderate myself and know when to say, you know what, I need to step back, to get some rest, some relaxation, so that I can get up and fight again the next day. So I'm doing fine. Of course, the meeting that we had Tuesday night was in our time it was a long meeting. It was a difficult meeting because we were covering several tough issues, primarily being how do we address the unhousing the community. But we can have a lively, engaged conversation in this community. And what I like about that meeting is that, we listen to what the constituents said and say, you know what, we said it, we didn't act on it. We wanted to hear from the public. We know that in this community, nothing can kind of slide by because, people know what's going on. Yeah. So anyway, I'm doing great.
Good. Yeah. That's good to hear, And of course, you can tell me if I'm missing anything, because we definitely want to hear what's top of your agenda going into this election, cycle, right? But what's top of council, but definitely, the homelessness.
Yeah. Let's start right there.
Even like the SR. We are. I want to kind of give them the rundown. Like we were thinking about, policing / school resource officers.
Yeah.
And then the police oversight. As well. Right. And just the role that you all play.
Lots going on. I forgot all about the PCOB.
Yeah.
But we're actually having a joint meeting this week. But I'll let you guide me.
Yeah. So. So like as Razor said, let's start right there. And of course it's multifaceted, right? So we have the need for deeply affordable housing. And I like that term, like that's been coined, deeply affordable housing, right? Meaning affordable to the masses. And then, when it comes to developments that's going through or overshadowing Black neighborhoods in particular. Yeah. Right. But then also the third and final piece that we probably can start on, which is again a big conversation that was recent as well, is the unhoused. Yeah. Right. Give us your rebuttal, your take on what that is exactly, like what that means to the city, because let's preface it by talking about how you all are making choices to try to keep our public spaces safe, right? But then is there alternatives? Like, 'cause I think that's the big question right now when it comes to the unhoused, right? It's like, it's not enough to give reasons why they can't be, or they're not potentially allowed in certain spaces, but are we just sort of criminalizing it, or are there alternatives going to be provided?
Yeah, so that is something that we heard crystal clear, is that, if we're going to say, hey, you can't have your essentially your worldly possessions and camp out in public spaces, if you can't come here, we need to have a space for you to go before we even think about entertaining anything like that. And we heard that loud and clear. And so that's what we are moving forward accordingly, with that in mind. And we've directed staff to do that. And it came up at the meeting the other night, like who told, Chief Koches or Sam to come up with that. And I cannot say that at any meeting that we had, either one-on-one or whatever, that said, a counselor would say Sam or Chief Koches, because they only got going on what they hear from us, to come up with an ordinance that we saw. What we hear and that what we get constantly from a wide range of shop owners, residents, and visitors, that we thought that Charlottesville was a world-class city. Why do we see this in our public spaces so evident? Mm-hmm. And so we want to try to address that. And it's not like we're not doing anything. We're, for the last several years, we have allocated $13-14 million to address affordable housing. So we're leaning into it. And I think per capita, that's probably the highest in the country. In the country. So we're leaning in. So it's just not like we're sitting back, not doing anything. We understand that Charlottesville and Albemarle County's area is the most expensive place in the Commonwealth to live. Mm-hmm. And
so where are the gaps? Like, so if you're investing that much in it, why is it still such an issue?
That's a good question. I think that is that the problem is really big. It's a big problem, and we're the only one that's leaning into it in that manner as far as local governments. We know that many of the residents or that we see out there, many of them were born and raised in Charlottesville, and for some whatever reasons that they are down on their luck. But we know many of them also, they're not from this area. True, they've come here, I should say, from all parts of the country.
Yeah. How many do we have?
So I think on any given night, I think you can anticipate 220, 230 individuals without homes, and then without a stable place to lay their head. And they're not all necessarily going to be out, in the elements, if you will. But I think that that's a safe assumption to say.
Can I ask you a question? Let's say it's 300, right? Mm-hmm. Is that any less irritating to Charlottesville residents than the UVA students that walk across the road, not at crosswalks and drunk on the weekends from Thursday to Sunday? So is one any more of a threat than the other one? Because we're not talking about locking up these belligerent kids that just seem to walk across the street in front of moving cars.
Right. I think that's an excellent observation. What I can tell you is that sometimes staff and counselors react to what they hear, and I think that we don't necessarily see that on the downtown mall or on Main Street. We primarily see that on the corner, and I can tell you that is an issue, because I've been on not countless, at least a half dozen grand juries over the years, and many of those cases that I hear, as well as the others that's with me, are individuals, primarily students on the corner. They get drunk and do different things, and so I know that is an issue.
Are we talking about criminalizing them though?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a grand jury, so they have done something to get in trouble, because they have done something, and we have to make the determination, is this a bill, whether it's, they go to
that's what I'm asking. Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm saying, are we talking about, with the things that they do, are we talking about taking it and making it a city ordinance that what they do can get them criminalized?
Are you talking about, what are you talking about now?
What we're talking about doing about the homeless, right? Because a problem is a problem, the way I heard everybody at the city council meeting.
Yeah.
Not my own personal feelings, but I'm just talking about what I saw, what you had to deal with.
Yeah.
So then I'm wondering, okay, you just said some of these people are from Charlottesville, some of the people are not. The UVA students, some of them from Charlottesville, some of them are not, right? But we're also talking about an eyesore. We're talking about putting the people in jeopardy. We're talking about a world-class city. So if we're talking about a world-class city, we should be talking about young people not walking around belligerent in front of vehicles.
Right. So, I mean, what we were discussing last night was the unhoused, and it was going to be a class 4 misdemeanor. But the residents brought, the comments that we got, and indicated, and one that hadn't come up until the end was Ms. Johnson mentioned that things like the court costs and things, all those things can add up, and so we listened to it and we said, let's this table, because we in my position, I understand I have to put myself in position of the residents that we heard from. I have to put myself in the residents that maybe weren't there, of the shop owners, and try to make policy that tries to appease everyone. And it's not easy, again, in a highly engaged community. But that's why I wanted to be in the position that I'm in. I retired in May. I could be looking now towards really retirement, but I want to be engaged in these serious conversations and try to address these issues.
Okay.
And I believe that I have been put in this position for the past, my connection and involvements in this community for the last 30 years, whether it's the numerous nonprofit boards I've been on, whether it's the school board experience, and my many young men that I've mentored, and young people, professionals, male and females that I've mentored, that put me in this position now that I can come and say, in this position to make these decisions. So I'll give you an example. On a regular basis, sometimes a couple of times a month, I help prepare meals for the Salvation Armies for these unhoused.
Okay.
And I see the individuals that come before us that don't have a regular place to lay their head. And I see that they have on work uniforms. Many of them have on work uniforms, that they're working, they're serving us, they're cleaning up after us. So they are part of this community. And if they weren't here, this community will look and feel a lot different. Well, if I didn't do that particular volunteering, I think that will
maybe a disconnect.
Yes. Yeah, it allows me to make better policy, not perfect because I'm not, but I understand what the residents were saying.
And to sort of close out on that topic, I think ultimately, and maybe I'm naive, Razor, but I think ultimately people just want some assurance, right? That there are alternatives, like other than the criminalization for being homeless, right? Like that, so, can you answer that?
Yeah, that came up clear. And so this is really difficult work. Sometimes I long to get back on the school board, but as I hear in some of the discussions they have, and maybe not, but this is tough work. This is tough work. The spectrum of homelessness, the reasons for it is varied with each of those 240 individuals. So I can tell you, I wish I could share more, but we are actively working on a solution that something like that will not come up again if we don't have an alternative. We're working on it. Of course, I mentioned at this council meeting, no one wants it in their neighborhood. And so right now we had looked at putting
a shelter.
A shelter. Okay. I'm sorry. A low barrier or no barrier shelter. I'm learning about high barrier, no barrier, low barrier shelters. 2 or 3 years ago, I just knew of a shelter.
Right.
Now I'm learning, getting down into the weeds. And so, and I understand people different concerns, and we're trying to address it. And I figured that if I make a decision that no one is happy with, then I probably got it about right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because no one can please. I can't please everyone.
Yeah. So we are here with Charlottesville City Mayor Juandiego Wade, and so that blends right into the next part of the housing conversation, which is talking about affordable housing and development thereof, right? And I say that because part of the issue that folks are seeing with Charlottesville being affordable, and or the risk of being overdeveloped, is the same when you talk about where can the shelter go, right? So as you said, there's unhoused folks that come to Charlottesville that aren't from Charlottesville. They come here, for like the opportunities thereof, and they're, it's better than being in a rural area. You see that nationwide, right? Folks would go to the nearest city, if they're unhoused, because there's just more resource. So that being said, has there been talk? So same regards of unhoused, when we look at like potential available housing in general, like for residents as well in our surrounding areas. So the shelter, for instance, are there talks with Albemarle? If we're seeing an influx, I think I saw an article about like an influx from even like Greene County of folks who are coming here unhoused. Like, so are we talking with surrounding counties to try to solve these issues?
Yes, we are having that conversation on a regular basis. But I can tell you right now with a high degree of confidence that if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be within the city proper.
Why?
Okay.
I'm an elected official in the city of Charlottesville.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Got you. Now, and so we just had Miss Joy Johnson on as well in regards to public housing and some developments that's coming through. Can you give us your take on how the citizens are being involved in these development conversations, and particularly their representatives, right? Because we have the AHIPs, we have the FAR, like we have these groups like that are here to be vocal and to make sure that their neighborhoods are being respected as Charlottesville develops. So what can you tell us about the folks that, the proposal right now for some student housing, some more luxury housing, which in general is not affordable, and that's being sort of petitioned against.
Right. So Charlottesville in generally has been underdeveloped as far as housing for the last 40 or 50 years. We just have not developed enough. And I would gather to say the reason that Charlottesville is probably the most expensive in the state to live. And I know Northern Virginia houses cost more, but their salaries are higher. So right. Charlottesville is the most, in Albemarle County is the most expensive in the state to live. Is that we just haven't, it's an issue of supply and demand. We haven't kept up. Most places in Charlottesville are like my lot. It's one house, one parcel. Mm-hmm. It's probably the capacity with for many parcels to build more. And so that's why we came up with the zoning ordinance, big zoning ordinance that we changed. It really looked at the entire 10 square miles of Charlottesville to say, how can we increase density? Because we want more development, because we believe that will have an impact on housing, because we need more housing in general, more housing type, whether it's condos, whether it's duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, apartments. See, we just don't have enough. And so, because
wait a minute, so you can go on with that. How much of the development that has came in the time frame that you talked about has been strictly Black and brown neighborhoods?
I don't know the breakdown, but I can tell you that most of the low income housing has been south of town, and so what does
that mean? South mean
south of the the railroad, south of town. I think you know,
like Fifth Street, that way.
Yeah, and that part. And so we now have said that we can increase the density throughout the entire town. And so the controversial project that's going on now, that I think is LV, that is right now on Main Street. And so we had the zoning ordinance, and the zoning ordinance said that on corridors like that, whether it's Ivy Road, Preston, Main Street, part of maybe Fifth Street towards 64, where we can have density that will be essentially by right. but it has to get approval from the BAR. So we had a lot of public hearings and things like that for that. So this one may come to us for approval, but I can tell you that and if it does, for me to come close to approving it, because I do a lot of walk-in meetings.
Okay.
I walk with individuals, whether they're residents or guests, particularly UVA officials, to let them see the impact. And one of the primary places I take them, I either walk through Hardy Drive and come up the stairs behind the standards, or go on Main Street and go down, and I turn around in the playground and I say, look, turn around. This is why for many people is generational hate of UVA, because you look at this big wall. And so I say there's 1,000 ways that the same development could have been done and been more inviting to the community. And so that was done, I don't know, that's been here, 10, 15 years. I don't know exactly when it was, but it's been a while. And so now we know a lot more. And I know what I don't like. And if something like that, and we try to incorporate things like that with the zoning plan. And, but it's a way for this LV project to flow from Main Street, to have the development and flow with the redevelopment of West Haven, so that it's all incorporated into one project. Because we have to approve, we can't keep saying no to all developments,
right?
Even though I know that, there'll be no affordable housing per se as part of that, but they will pay some into a fund, which, over the last few years allows us to buy Dogwood housing, allows us to buy Carlton Mobile Home Park. So we need funds to do things like that. And so, and I'm not sure if any residents would want to live in, the Verb and these other type of student housing, but if they can pay into a fund to allow us to put affordable housing, maybe to help AHIP, to help PHA or Habitat or whether to build affordable housing in other places, it's a part of the package that we need to another tool that we have to address affordable housing.
So you can understand, though, about how a lot of residents will go look at the city budget and still say, to your point, that there's still too much luxury development happening based on what we could be doing with the budget that we already have. So it's almost like, what are we prioritizing?
Well,
you don't agree with that, do you?
I mean, I just don't agree with the assumption, with the notion that we have enough housing. We don't. We need more luxury housing. We need more affordable housing. We need more the middle gap. We need more housing in general, because when we build, it's not because the city is not building. This is not a city development, but let's say we know that when the standard was built, as obtrusive as it may be, when it was built, those, 1,000, 2,000 students, where they were in the neighborhood, they left the housing that they housed, the apartment, and those became available for other people. And so even though the housing was not built, it's pent up demand for it. So I'm just from the camp that we need more housing because we haven't built enough, and that's why it's so high.
What's possible ultimately, though, one is like ultimately, because you mentioned, like the 10 square miles.
Yeah.
So saying that, then you have folks who don't want luxury buildings towering over their historic neighborhoods, right? Need more housing, but you have to be cognizant and sensitive, to the history here. So how do you develop in such a landlocked spot?
So we just have to be strategic in where we do it. And so we have increased the density throughout the entire city, but you're not going to, in the middle of a neighborhood, it may not be, 8 or 9 floors, but you know what? You can put in 3 or 4 in certain places, and it would not necessarily, because some homes now might have 3 or 4 floors to it. It may be more. And I know people are concerned about the infrastructure, but we're making it more dense, and will be more transit. people, they won't have to drive to go to the grocery stores and things like that because we're going to have those things closer. We're not there yet. Really, this may be, it's only been one or two projects that we have had since the new zoning ordinance has been developed. So people really, it's the most probably progressive zoning ordinance in the entire country. We're on the cutting edge thing that we're doing here. And so people, you really want to analyze it to make sure that an investment, because now what I'm hearing from from the investment development world is that because of the tariffs and things that they just don't know, like 6 months from now, because of what's happening in Washington, in the uncertainty there, what impact that's going to have on me purchasing steel 18 months from now. Would I be able to get that a lot of our wood come from Canada? We're not, things are not going so great between the United States and Canada now. And so all those things have been kind of chiming and working together. And so now it's a new things have started. I mean, they need to kind of get recalibrated, if you will. And every time they say, okay, this is the new, things change again. So we are trying to do it as well. And of course, we have some people right here in town that don't like what we're doing. Of course, you've heard about us getting sued and things. Yeah. This is a big change. It's a big change. But it's something that we as counselors, we heard from the public that they want more housing or more affordable housing. Right. And we're trying to provide that.
Can I ask you a question?
But hold up, though, Razor, but I just got to say, it can't be UVA and luxury, though. Like, and I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of folks is that, like, when we develop, it's either for UVA or something that nobody can afford.
Yeah, this goes along with Charles's question, too. This is perfect. Thank you, Charles. I'm glad you did that. Nobody has really asked y'all this to where I heard. But when people speak on Charlottesville being so expensive to live in, do we wear that as a badge of honor? Like, to live here, you got to be able to pay XYZ. And that amount is being kept up to that protocol. Because I only hear it one way, is that Northern Virginia costs this, but it's because of XYZ. Because to live in Charlottesville, we're the most expensive place in Virginia. Is that considered a badge of honor?
So the way I look at it is that it's certainly not a badge of honor in that sense, but in another sense that this is a desirable place to live. And I think that that's something that we should be happy as a community, that people see the way we support our schools, the way we support our parks department, the different activities and things that we have. People want to be part of that. And part of that is the University of Virginia. You can imagine someone came here for school 10, 20 years ago. They now have the ability maybe to work remotely, and they can come back here to a place where they like the schools, they like the parks, it's not as busy. And I know we think we have bad traffic, but compared to other places, so it's not, to wear as a badge of honor. People want to come here, and so they want to come here and live for different reasons. And a big part of that is the University of Virginia. A big part of that is the NJIG, which is in the county of South Tourist. And it's a lot of different reasons.
I think it's because it's part of the birthplace of America. Like you got 6 or 7 of the people in the beginning that live in a 20-minute radius of each other. Not to bring up no scars or nothing, but I mean, certain people felt comfortable to come back here to protest and bring death to the city. So I personally think because America, regardless of what you talk about the South or the North, everything is the nucleus from here to Williamsburg.
Spot on. Yeah. Now, who do I talk to in the county, Juan? How can I advocate for the city when it comes to convincing somebody to figure out how to bring recreation for the children, for the youth? We don't need another Starbucks. We don't need another Wawa. Is this thing on? we don't need none of those chains. The kids need, right? County, y'all got the space. Who can we talk to, Juan? Because we somehow we got to work that thing out. And it's not just a city issue. That's what blows my mind. It's like, to be within the Charlottesville vicinity, the families that are moving here, even the ones that are well off, want recreation for their families and for their children. And to be Charlottesville, it just blows my mind how we don't have more.
Yeah, I've heard this frequently. Right in Fredericksburg, this is a place called Funland, or it's a place
like
where
Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
Come on, County.
Yeah. So, we can take care of that without through Parks and Rec. We don't get into commercial as a locality. We're not a developer. We have zoning for it. If they, if someone sees the financial need, or if they put their financial plan together and said that it can be profitable here, if I think that
why wouldn't the city do it?
That would be just like us starting a business. We're not a retail. That's not our skill set.
Okay.
We don't want to be competing against businesses and things that's not something that I would want to do. It would prevent businesses from come here, and we don't have the expertise in City Hall to do that. But
even if it gave the kids something to do instead of shooting each other,
we could do it. We could have programs through Parks and Rec.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to create a Dave and Buster's for the city to compete against potential Dave and Buster's, because they would for surely never come if it's a business that's taxed back to whatever. So no,
for the city, not the county.
You lost me there, Juan. So if they wouldn't come because they wouldn't be able to get the revenue, but if the city was to have it and be paid the revenue of the people there, like, you lost me there for a second. Maybe I heard it wrong, but never mind. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. Like, so I'm, again, I think ultimately it's that handshake we were talking about before, though, right?
Yeah.
Like city is tied to some extent, right? Because
city hands are tied.
At some point, development is development, right? Like but we are speaking with Mayor Wade. So before we take a break, Juan, and we switch it over to more of
happy things.
Well, policing. I don't know how happy policing
is.
Lord. But before we do that, though, what can you impart on us in regards to why Black neighborhoods get targeted? In particular, people are talking about a potential new water pipeline, right? Mm-hmm. And like, that's just one example. Like, we see Black communities, even over in Fluvanna that we had on our last show, it's low income Black communities where they want to put a gas power plant, right? And we see it time and time again, to where when things like that happen that are environmentally questionable, it tends to be communities of color. So what can you tell us about that potential pipeline and the options for it?
We don't have no value.
You don't have
Black neighborhoods have no value to the people that's bringing it here. I'm not saying that we don't have none as people. That'd be crazy on my behalf. But it's the truth is the truth. So I'm gonna take you off the hook on this one, Walt.
No. I think that this has come to council a few times. I see it as being the most direct route. I think that our need for a stable water supply is imperative as we look at what's happening in the environment, and I think this allows us to do it the quickest way. And I have talked with staff and Sam at length, and I'm comfortable with that. It's only going to be a small length at a time that's done, and some of it is going to have a negative impact on communities of color, communities that when I was a student, I lived in. As a matter of fact, and I tell people that I lived at the corner of Cherry and Roosevelt Brown Boulevard. It wasn't called that when I was there. Right behind the corner restaurant. I lived in that neighborhood when I was a graduate student, and I recall this discussion. This was from 88 to 90 that it was written up in the daily the Cavalier Daily that certain, it wasn't Uber like they have it now, but restaurants and things would not deliver to the community, because it's a community of color. And we know that has changed now because it's become much more diverse. We are trying to preserve our neighborhoods of color. It was a lot of discussion on it when we were talking about the zoning ordinance. So there is a lot of attention that's being paid to our community of color, and we want to preserve it.
Are we afraid that you said it was going to be done a little bit at a time? Right?
Well, it's going to take one block and only one small section will be disturbed at a time.
Okay.
And they're going to do this, then move to the next. So it's not going to be like 2 blocks torn up or whatever at a time.
So we're going to do death by 1,000 cuts instead of stabbing them at one time.
But you know what? When we all done, we're going to have a stable water supply, and I think that is going to be comforting to the residents of this area.
Okay.
It's hard decisions that we have to make.
Yeah. Now, what's the projected timeline?
I didn't come prepared with that information, but I think that they're going to be starting on it, within the next year, if not,
Okay.
So it's going to be pretty soon.
Good stuff.
All right. Cool. Well, let's take a water break, a bathroom break.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor may need a towel or something. I don't know, but hey, it's all good. It is Charles and Razor and Mayor Juandiego Wade. Good conversation community. This is what it's all about. Good positive dialogue, right? Communication. All right. IMHO Talk Show. Don't go too far. We'll be right back in 2 and 2. Go back like we never left with none other than Mayor of the great city of Charlottesville, Juandiego Wade. Always appreciate good brother Juan Wade being here with us. And it's been some heavy talk, but I believe it's been very constructive, right? Tackling some very, very crucial and important topics. And next up, kind of want to go from like the housing and development realm to more of the like law enforcement piece of things. One big thing that we actually had the privilege, us as Charlottesville Inclusive Media and IMHO to be a part of is the city schools decision to bring school resource officers back into the schools next year. And they're trying to engage the community, right? Because the votes and the info has already been out about whether to have them. And now they're at the piece on what it's going to look like, right? Like how that's going to be administered. And they, so part of that discussion is, of course, like the policing budget that comes from the city, right? And then they're talking about having a Charlottesville police officer being a hybrid, if you will, employee of the city middle school. I think 1 at the middle school, they said, and I believe like 2 at the high school. All right. So you're talking about potentially 3 police officers. So just, as you think about the city as a whole and you think about the safety of our schools, is that something like the council had much of a say in? Is that something that the council or, you as the mayor, feel like that presence is needed? Because even though it was approved, still a pretty good divide on folks' take on that. So curious when it comes to the safety of our kids, how the council is viewing this move to bring SROs back into the schools.
Yeah. So, this is always controversial. I was on school board last time we had this discussion. And now as it has come up again, I've already had a few people approach me like, well, can you, reduce the police budget, to trying to exit out or whatever. And I would say, I would not support that because it would be an end around on what the school board has decided. And I would certainly not have wanted that when I was on the school board. It is up. The school board has made the decision that this is what they want to do. I can't tell you what happened before. This was, 2020 when, of course, George Floyd and the big decision came up. And at the time, I had the capacity. I was mentoring several young boys at the time. And I have mentored probably hundreds over the last 30 years. And I reached out to a few more. And I asked them a wide range. I talked to them and I talked to their parents as well. And I said, what do you think about you removing the SRO officers from the school? And at the time, the parents that I talked to, based on the officers that were there, they supported them. They were like, they knew the officers and they had made a connection. They knew their sons and kids, and they knew that the officers knew whether it was they were having a bad day or, not engage in law. And each time is different. And so, but it was the school board made the decision not to do it. And whatever decision that they make, I'm going to support the school board, because that's what I would have wanted. I would not have wanted the city council to come in and do an end around on our decision. So that's kind of where I am.
And that's an interesting take as well, right? Because you have the folks who are saying like we shouldn't militarize the schools, or we shouldn't like try to make, we shouldn't make the students fearful about having law enforcement there. But the flip side of it, though, and Reza, I'm curious to hear your opinion, is that if trouble is going to come, it's going to happen, and you're going to have to call in police. Yeah, they're saying, wouldn't you rather it be someone that has built a relationship to be there and your kid is familiar with, rather than being a strange officer? But that's not appeasing to folks who are anti-police.
Right. And it just has to be part of, I'm sorry, sir, it has to be part of a comprehensive approach. It just can't have that. We need to beef up what we're doing in Parks and Rec with our Parks and Rec, with our programs. We have to do, continue to support our nonprofits, whether it's the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, C4K, all those things, so that the kids feel like they have a place to go that's for them, their place. Today I have my mentee with me. He's out in the lobby now, and so his thing after school now is going to the Boys and Girls Club. He's happy that he's a new student at the a student at the new high school, middle school. Loves it and loves his time that he spends there at the Boys and Girls Club. That's him. But for another kid, it might be the C4K, and I've been a mentor through them, and that was the perfect fit for them. But the bottom line is that it just can't be the SRO officers. We have to, if that's what they ultimately decide to do, and it looks like they have decided, they're working with now the city police department to figure out what that MOU will look like.
Yeah.
And but that just needs to be one piece of the puzzle.
I look at it like this, y'all. The first thing that I go from is what allows my children or my friends' children to be safe, right? And if parents can monitor and raise good, law-abiding, healthy citizens, then there's no need for SROs. But unfortunately, majority of people have reasons why they can't raise their kids to the point of them staying out of trouble. I'm doing the best I can by myself, or I'm not allowed to be in my kid's life, or the court took away, whatever that reason is. Okay. Now we have a child who does not listen, or a group of children that do not listen. And I don't feel that anybody has the right to take or rob anybody of their safety or their education. So if it takes militarization to be inside the schools, for us to have children that can go to school, learn what they need to, come home safely without getting beat up, without going to the bathroom scared, then I'm all for that. I'm not saying I'm in support of police, not police. I'm in support of the safety of the children. Now, whatever that takes to get there, that has my vote. Yeah.
And and we all know that policing in general, not only locally but in this country, isn't serving and protecting in the way like that we wish it would. And there is bad run-ins and incidences between our community and the police. So we know that there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of things broken there. I wish that we can get enough services supported to at some point we would not have to worry about the police being too militarized within our communities, right? But that's going to take partially us, right? That's going to take us supporting each other and our building strong communities once again, right? But in the interim, yes, we still live in a land where law enforcement is needed. So I can't go as far as just totally defunding and totally anti-police, because we got to fix all that stuff, and we got to fix ourselves first to be able to be self-sustainable and self-protected.
But until we fix ourselves, like if two children are going to fight over corners that they don't belong and make everybody else fearful to walk around, lock them up.
So to that point, the oversight. There's a lot going on with the police oversight. Mayor Wade, want to get your input on where we are with that. Even the point that people say, how can the city? Maybe let's start here. How can a true oversight board, sort of have the inoculation of oversight if it's reporting to that police department or to that city that is responsible for the police? Should it be a community group, an independent organization?
Yeah, so this is something that has come up several times since I've been on council, but then another issue will overshadow it, and it kind of goes on the back burner and back. I think it's back getting towards the front burner again, and so I think this is something we just need to address. I think that now, if we were to kind of start a PCOB from scratch, it may be different, because I think we're in a different place at the time. The last class of cadets that came through the police academy was the most diverse ever, with women, Hispanics, and blacks, and so
who was the chief then?
I think that it was the under the Chief Kochis.
Okay,
yeah, and so I think that we probably needed it measures then. And so we're going to fix it. We're going to make it right. This week we're having a joint meeting with the PCOB to try to talk about those things, and get some Tuesday or Thursday of this week.
It's a joke now, right? Like, I mean, the way, like, I'm gonna say it, like the way it reports to the city manager, and the way it's a joke. I went through it, not to go into my business, but I went through it. It is a absolute joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't want it to be a joke. We know that when things come up, people want to feel like they have been heard.
Yeah.
And so we need to fix it. That's, I mean, it's not fixed yet, so I can't tell you what. And so I haven't had opportunity to really dive deep into this to figure out what the answers are. But I think this week we're going to go a long way to addressing it. And we know that, again, just like the ranked choice voting, just like our zoning ordinance, that eyes are looking at us, because it's not a lot of people that's doing this. We know that it seems like the West Coast, the Silicon Valley, every time we get an executive director, they hire them away, and it's not a lot of localities that's doing this. And so if we're going to do it, we want to get it done right.
Yeah. Now, earlier, Razor mentioned a badge of honor. I think one thing that should be a badge of honor is, the news report recently that Charlottesville is second ranked in the state for spending per student. Right. So I think that should be applauded. But at the same time, we still, people are we still have issues. Right. Of course, you could say, it's never going to be perfect. But like when you think of spending that much, like what are some fixes that you see is still needed? And, so that being second ranked in the money that we put towards students in our public education can be that much better.
But what is our ranking, as in
like how much money is budgeted per student?
No. We rank second, but where are we coming out of? Are we second in best students?
And the most money is like it's all this is.
You understand what I'm saying? No one.
Yes,
but if we're number 7,000 and we spending the second most money, we got a problem.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Like, so we spending that money.
Y'all need some criminals on there.
So how can we make it better?
Like, cause y'all don't understand how to work money there.
Yeah.
So we spending it. Like, so how we getting the bang for our buck?
So I would have to say that when I was on the school board, we presented a budget to city council that we felt we needed to do to address our the needs in our district. And so, again, I didn't want city council to come down and say, why are you spending $2,000 or whatever for reading literacy? Can't you do it? We don't get down in the weeds. That's the school board's job. And it's our job to say, if we support it, we'll pay it. If not, we'll give you X amount of dollars. And so we have handsomely funded the school board. I have great confidence in the leadership, Dr. Gurley, and the school board. But we know that, many of our students of color are not reading at the same grade level. And so we just need to get the right combination of assistance and programs and things together to address those. And it's really difficult to do that. I recall this from my time on council, and for the young people that I mentor and that, I tutor, that it's really difficult to do that. So it's we fund them handsomely because it's difficult work to do, and it takes resources to do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Wade. And Mayor Wade, we are down to our last 2 minutes, but this is election season, 2025. What do you want the good people to know about where Mayor Wade is at going into this election? What should the people be on the lookout for? What is your plans and goals to see following this November?
Yes,
or going into this November.
Going into.
I appreciate the residents giving me an opportunity to serve this community yet for another 4 years. I'm on the ballot in November. There's no Republican or independent on the ballot, so chances are highly likely that I'll be reelected. And I'm looking forward to continue to serving. What they will get is someone who I call myself a servant leader. I'm in the community. I understand the issues, and if I don't, I'm willing to listen and act on those what I listen to. I had to take a wide range of ways that I make my decision, and part of it is listening to the residents. And so it has been an honor for someone who was raised and born in Richmond to come up here. It's not a local, but I've been involved in this community for the last 30 years to be able to serve this community. And I love this community, and it's done a lot for me, and I'm looking forward to serving it for another 4 years.
Awesome. Very well said.
Best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Mayor, that was Mayor Wade with Charles and Razor, I Am Made Show.